All right, so in this code along, I'm hoping that you already watched the concept video because that's going to be really important if you're not just going to be lost as I go through the coding piece of this. And what I want to do in this one is I just want to start out showing you how to use the dollar sign to actually retrieve a value from a subview that's changing the value over time and then displaying it. Okay, so let's jump in. So I basically have a new project here. I am using my iPhone 12 here over in the canvas. And what we want to do is get rid of this hello world, and we're going to actually put in, why don't we do the stepper, very much like we used a stepper in the concept video. Well, first of all, a stepper is going to need to have a value that it changes over time, and it is also going to be its initial value coming in. So up here, where this area right here, remember, is where we can put variables and define them. And so what we're going to do is say, let's start out, we'll say var number is going to start out as 0. So through type inference, it's declared as an int, and we're giving it a value of 0. Now, the thing is that this right here is not going to be sufficient because number cannot change. At this point, even though it's a var, it's basically part of a struct, it's a property, and inside the struct, we're not going to be able to change its value. So what we normally will always do in this case is we're always going to put a property wrapper right at the beginning of it. So I'm going to say at state var number equals 0. And when I do that, now I've declared a variable that not only can change over time, but remember, this is the signal to the system that if this changes, I want you to re-render everything in the body. So all the views that are in here are all going to be re-rendered and redrawn for us on the screen very fast. You're not going to see it, obviously, but you will see the result. So what we want to do is let's take out this text, and what we're going to do is put in a stepper. Now, there are a lot of different completions for stepper. So if I say stepper open left, open parentheses, you're going to see a bunch of them listed here. What I want you to do is I want you to keep arrowing down until you get to the ones that are sort of like this, where they start out label. But I want you to do this one, the one that says value, binding stridable, inbounds, closed range, and label. Turns out that looks very complicated, but that's exactly the one that we used in the concept video and what we want to use here. So I'm just going to literally hit enter there, and it's going to complete this for me. So if let's move this over a little bit, we can see that the first thing we need to do is we need to supply a value. This is the variable that's going to change. Notice it says it's a binding variable. And when we get into at binding in the next code along, that will make sense when you're actually implementing a subview. But this subview is already implemented for us in SwiftUI. But they are saying that this is a binding variable, which means you can't just pass number. So if I just type number in here and I try to compile it, I'm going to get a little red indicator here. And one of the issues is it says, hey, number, which you put right here, is not bindable. It is not a binding int. And the reason is because you didn't say it could be. You basically are passing it in as read only. But the stepper really needs it to be a read write because it wants to change the value as we step up or down. So to fix that, we're going to put a $sign in front of it. So if I put the $sign there and do a command B, I don't get any errors here. I still am getting errors because I haven't finished what I'm doing, but I've now said $number is going to change over time, and it's okay. And that's why I put the $sign there. Now, the closed range, if I tab to that, is basically, we could say it's going to be a range from 0, ... 20. And now we've created a closed range, right? It's not the less than here. And we've said it can go from 0 to 20. So that is the range. Then the third part, I'm going to tab over here to label, and I'm going to hit enter. And here's where I can actually put the label that I want to actually show to the left of the stepper. So in this case, I could say text, and then I could say value colon, and then I can use that string interpolation, and I can put number in here. And if I do that and I Command B, I basically now have a build succeeded. And notice here, number doesn't get the $sign, right? Because when we do string interpolation here, it's reading the value, but it's not changing the value. So that is absolutely the way it should be. In fact, you can't put $ here. If you put $ here, it's going to say, well, this can't be bindable. This is not a changing thing. And so don't tell me that it's okay to be changeable. So we have to not have the $sign in that case. But here we can have the dollar, we need the $sign, right? Because it is going to change. So now what we've done is we've created this, and of course nothing's happened over here because it needs to resume. So let's go ahead and hit resume, and we see that we now have a stepper over here, and we have this value 0 right here, which is really what we typed right here. So, of course, I don't like this jammed right up to the side. So how do we fix that? Well, with padding. So I could just say dot padding, which is a modifier that we're adding to the stepper itself. And sure enough, over here on the right, now we have some nice padding all the way around it. If I tap away, at least we're not right on the edges. Okay, so now let's try this out and see how this works. So if I go over here and I say run, so now we're actually running it. If I click on the plus here, notice this value right here changed to a 1. And if I hit plus again, it changed to a 2. Now, why is that though? Well, the reason it is the case is because number right here, every time we tap an increment, it gets incremented by 1. That's in the implementation of stepper. Okay, so that's done inside of it. And when that number changes, it comes up here to this variable and changes its value, right? Number here and number are the same variable. The $sign is just saying it's okay to change it. And so number is actually changing. It's going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And because it's a state variable, that propagates back down into the view. So every time this changes, this entire view gets re-rendered. And when it gets re-rendered, it means we're rereading the value of number here in this string interpolation, and so that's why we see this change. So if I click plus again, 3, 4, if I click negative, it takes it down, and that is the mechanism that is working to basically take a value that's down inside of a view where it's changing it, and we're getting visibility to that and letting that come back up out of the subview into our main area where that variable is changing. And because that variable is an @state variable, it re-renders this every time.